What's up, guys? We got a ton of new subscribers on the channel. You guys are always asking for technique videos. We appreciate all the support you guys give. So today we're going to be going over the mounted position, how to control it, prevent your opponent from escaping, as well as go into some submissions. You got arm bars, triangles, arm triangles, whole ton of different options. So let's get into it. So when you're in the mounted position, there's two main escapes. There's the knee elbow escape. That's the one that everybody's taught, pretty much from like day one of jiu-jitsu. And then you have the more advanced escape, which is the kipping escape. Now both of these require you to have a different posture to maintain the position. Okay, so I'll go into it. We have the opponent down. Okay, the first one that we're going to look at is just the knee elbow escape. This is a situation where my opponent gets his elbow inside of my knee like so. From here, he starts, framing on my hip, and then he starts to shrimp out. This is going to bring space in between my knees so that he can start to get his legs back inside, and then he can start working back to a full guard. The second one is the kipping escape. This is a situation where my opponent gets two hands to my hips, and from here he starts to send me overhead as he brings his knees inside like so. So, to prevent the knee elbow escape, okay, what my opponent needs is he needs his head coming towards his knees. He needs to get onto his side like so. He needs to get his elbow inside of my knee, and then from here his whole body is going to be crunched up, and this is going to help him start to push my knee down and get his legs back inside. If you guys are enjoying this technique and you want to learn from me in person, I'm available for seminars all over the country, out of country. Just shoot me an email at this address, and I'd love to come out and show you guys some stuff. Okay, initially what I want to do is, if you can prevent your opponent from getting an elbow inside through the use of pinching your knees in tight and fighting for underhooks, that's always good. Okay, but let's say we mess up, our opponent gets an elbow inside. From here, it's fairly simple to stop this. All I need to do is prevent him from turning completely onto his side and bringing his head in towards his knees. Okay, so even something as simple as just a post on the mat next to his head. Now when he goes to start knee elbow escaping, it's going to be very difficult, and I can just keep walking his head away. Now if he fully starts to kind of get on his side, okay, a post isn't going to work as well. Now we're going to start to need to get like a full crossface. So from here I'm just going to start shooting my hand through, and then I'm going to start using my shoulder to turn his head in the opposite direction of the knee elbow escape. And now when he tries to hit that same knee elbow escape, again, it's going to be very difficult. Now, kipping escapes is mainly when I'm leaning my weight forward, okay? It's more in positions like so. Let's say I have crossed ankles, a crossface, okay? Here it's going to be more difficult for him to hit knee elbow escapes because I have this crossface, but it opens up the opportunity for him to start sending me overhead because my weight's going forward, and then from here he can start to get his knees back inside and re-guard. So anytime that we feel a kipping escape is coming, okay, our whole thing is to kind of sit our weight back. Okay, so a lot of the times what I'll do is I'll physically push off of my hands and I'll sit my weight back. Now from here, when he tries to start sending me overhead, it's going to be a lot more difficult because I'm driving all my weight back onto his hips. Another thing you can do as well is to grip a collar tie, and I just start physically like lifting his head off the mat. This is going to help anchor me into him. Now he can go as hard as he wants for kipping escapes. It's going to be very difficult. Another thing notice is I'm always pinching my knees and I'm pretty much touching my toes together. I'm not crossing ankles here. To cross ankles I need to bring my weight forward, which is going to make the kipping escape easier. So from here, what I love to do is I love to just take this collar tie. I'm physically driving off of the mat. And now when he goes to hit that kipping escape, I just stay connected to his hips, and it's a lot more difficult. So now we're going to go into how to create opportunities for submissions. So the main way you're going to start to create submission opportunities is through getting your opponent's elbows elevated above his head. Okay, if he's keeping everything in tight here, it's very hard to really go into anything. Okay, you can't go into arm triangles, arm bars, things like that. So our whole thing is to get elbows elevated above the head, whether that just be one elbow or two elbows. They open up different opportunities. So in a situation like so, okay, most of the time I like to start taking a crossface, and you know, one of the most common defensive positions they're going to take is like so, where elbows are in tight. Okay, so it's kind of hard to dig in underhooks, things like that. Okay, if you can get a hand all the way in between, that's great. Now you have a full underhook. This is even better than what I'm about to show, but again, against people that stay very tight, this can be somewhat difficult. So from here, I'm just going to kind of take like a loose crossface. I'm not driving my weight all the way forward for it, because again, that's going to open up kipping escapes. So I'm taking a crossface, but my weight is still slightly back. From here, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to start digging underneath this elbow. So to do this, okay, if I just stay with my knee like so, it's very hard to catch that elbow. So what I want to do is I want to kind of bring my left knee back like so, and this is going to help open up space for me to start digging underneath. Now, from here, I'm going to start hand walking. So I'm going to place my fingertips on the mat. He's going to be trying to keep his elbow in tight here. Okay, it's going to take a little bit. Now, the way that I hand walk, okay, especially when you're going against people that are stronger than you, the most common way it's taught is to just finger walk like so. But when you have an opponent who's actually keeping that elbow tight, it's very difficult. So what you want to do is you want to finger walk, keep it tight. You want to finger walk, and then when you feel like you can't finger walk anymore, what you do is you move your head away and you extend your arm. That's going to bring it up more, and then we sink back down. So once again, he's got his elbow in tight. To expose the elbow, we kind of bring our knee back. At the same time, our left elbow moves, and from here we catch underneath. Now, we start sliding up into this underhook. From here, he's keeping it tight. We finger walk until we feel like we can't anymore. Our head moves away, and we straighten our arm, and that's going to bring it up a little bit. Once we're in this position, we're going to drop that elbow back down, and now my hand's a little bit further. Once again, we finger walk till we feel like we can't anymore. Our head moves away, we straighten, and then we drop back down. Finger walk, head moves away, straighten, and now we have elbow elevated completely above the head. So this is the main method of actually elevating elbows above the head. Again, it's ideal if we can get a full underhook. Okay, this is going to be a lot better because his hand's not inside, but most of the time that's going to be fairly difficult. So from here, we're just going to look to bring the leg back, elbow back, and we use that finger walking method where we move head away and extend, and then re-drop down to actually start elevating elbows above the head. So another main way to get into this underhook position is when my opponent goes to start hitting these knee elbow escapes. So he starts to bring his elbow inside my knee like so, and then from here he starts to kind of push my knee out and away. Now, in order for him to do this, his elbow is going to start to come away from his ribs, which is going to open up space for me to start inserting my hands. So again, if he's staying super tight like so, there's no space to get my hand in, his elbow is connected to his ribs, that's where we start digging underneath the elbow. But if he starts to go into these knee elbow escapes, it forces his elbow away from his rib. So what I do from here is I kind of windshield wiper my hand in like so, and I just kind of place my fist on the mat. Now from here, he's going to be, once he feels his hand come in, he's going to start to try and re-tighten up exactly. So I'm just going to kind of slide the back of my hand through. Okay, if I try and lift his elbow above his head with only my wrist in, it's going to be impossible, even if the person is much smaller than you. What we want to do is we want to kind of slide the back of our hand along the mat, and we want to start shooting through so that we can get our elbow in. Now from here we have a full underhook, and we can start reinserting that crossface and then walking that hand up. So it both kills the knee elbow escape and it allows you to get a full underhook. So the first submission that we're going to be going over is the armbar. Okay, to do this you kind of need to slide high up into an S-mount position. But first, we need to get both of our opponent's elbows elevated above his head. So you can use either one of the previous two methods, okay, whether he goes for a knee elbow escape and we react to it, or we can go proactive, where my opponent's kind of keeping his elbows in tight, and then we have to dig underneath elbows. So I'll just show the second method. So from here, we're going to take that loose crossface, okay, we're going to kind of bring our knee back to expose that elbow, and we're going to come underneath. We're going to use that same finger walking method where our head moves away and we extend our arm, and then we re-drop down, finger walk, head moves away, extend until we get all the way, his elbow all the way elevated above his head. Now, once we do this, okay, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to lift his head with my crossface arm, and I'm just going to kind of reach underneath with my underhook arm. Now, from here, I'm going to start sprawling my left hip down. Okay, again, if his elbow's in tight and I keep my knee where it is, there's no room to really get underneath that elbow. So what I'm going to look to do instead is I'm going to sprawl my left hip down, and I'm going to kind of open my right knee here, okay? This is going to help open up space for me to start digging underneath. Now, from here, we're going to use that same method where we finger walk, elevate, until we get his elbows, both of his elbows elevated. Now from here, initially just to control, I'm just going to take 2 hands underneath and I'm just going to physically grab his neck and head. Now from here, to prevent him from regaining this elbow position, we're going to look to start sliding up into this S mount. So from here, I'm going to start sliding my right knee up, and then from here I'm going to lift his head, and this is going to allow me to start hooking through and underneath. So I'm kind of sitting on his chest, and I have my knee underneath his head, and I'm back heeling with my left leg. Now from here, when your opponent tries to bridge, move anything, okay, you can always use your right hand for base. It's going to be very difficult for him to off-balance you because his hips aren't connected to mine. So he can bridge as hard as he wants. It's not going to really move me. Okay, again, if he does, you always have your right hand out for base. Now, from here, what I'm going to look to do is I'm going to look to start feeding my right arm through. Okay, and once you get into this position, your opponents are probably going to start locking their arms up. Exactly. Otherwise, you can just kind of extend the arm. If he doesn't lock his arms up, from here I can literally just finish from the S mount. So most people, exactly, are going to start locking up. Now from here, I'm going to release his head. I'm going to post my left hand on the mat. I'm going to lean my weight off to my left-hand side. This is going to help make it so that I can transfer my right leg across, hook underneath my leg. Yep. And now from here, we can just simply sit back, and now we're in our armbar position, where we can start looking to separate the grip and go into our finish. So in the previous one, that was the situation where we were able to elevate both of our opponent's elbows above his head. Now you're not always going to be able to do that. Sometimes you're only going to be able to elevate one elbow above the head, and this opens up some different opportunities. So the one we're going to look at now is triangles. So from here, okay, once again, you use either one of the methods to start elevating his elbow above his head. Okay, so let's say this time our opponent starts going in for a knee elbow escape. Okay, we dig our hand in and underneath. We kind of move our left leg back so he doesn't get knees inside. And then once again, we slide the back of our hand along the mat so that we can get elbow deep. We insert our cross face, and then from here, we'll use that finger walking method to get that elbow elevated above the head. Once again, once our underhook arm is going to start reaching through and underneath. Now let's say this time our opponent's super tight with this elbow, and we just feel like, man, we just cannot get underneath it. Whenever this happens, what I'm going to look to start doing is I'm going to look to start gripping his wrist and pushing it into his chest. Now from here, I'm going to look to start sliding my left knee high up into the armpit like so. Okay, and again, you're in a pretty stable position here. Anytime we slide our knees up, it's disconnecting our hips from his hips. So he can bridge all he wants, and it's not really going to do much because our hips are so far away. Now from here, we're going to start to posture up. As we posture up, I'm going to be looking to lift his head off the mat. This is going to open up space for my right leg to come through and underneath. If his head is against the mat and I try and throw, he's just going to end up escaping the position. So from here, as we posture up, we make sure we give a strong lift of the head. And then from here, we're going to swing our right leg through and around. And we're just going to start to bring our leg underneath his head. Now from here, I'm going to post my right hand on the mat. And I'm just going to make sure I shoot my leg all the way through and I bring my knee down to the mat. Now from here, it's going to feel, if you just stay like so, it's going to feel kind of hard to lock up that figure four. So what we need to do is we need to lean our weight towards the right. And then from here, this is going to allow me to bring my right ankle off the mat and make it a lot easier to lock up my legs. We lean our weight, we post our right hand, and then we lock up that full figure four. Now from here, a lot of the times you can just kind of squeeze and sit your weight back and finish. Sometimes when you get people like Jorge who are very hard to strangle, you need to use stronger finishing mechanics. So in this instance, we're going to look to start reaching our hand through to his far hip. So from here, my right hand reaches through, I grip his far hip, and then I kind of think about just rotating my body out towards my right hand side. This is going to start to kind of crunch his chin in towards his chest and just kind of fold his body. So from here, we hook into this hip, and I start to rotate as I bring my knees in towards my chest. And then from there, we get a super tight mounted triangle. Once again, we're going to go into a situation where we can only elevate one elbow above the head. Okay, and let's say maybe you're not that flexible, you kind of struggle to swing your leg around for triangles and going into S-mount, things like that. An arm triangle is a great option for you. So once again, we're going to use either one of the previous methods to start elevating that elbow above the head. We reach underneath and we just kind of secure the position by gripping his head with my right arm. Now, from here, what we're going to look to do is we're going to look to start shooting our head down towards the mat. Now, when we do this, it's very important that we sink our weight back. I don't want to be in a situation like so where I'm super high up, okay? It's going to be uncomfortable for him, but it's not going to strangle him. And yeah, most good people won't tap if you're super high up with your arm triangles. So what we want to do is we want to start kind of sinking our weight back, and from here we're just going to look to place our head down on the mat. Our goal is to try and get our shoulder underneath his chin. My shoulder is above, it's not going to strangle him. So we're in here, we sink our weight back, we get our shoulder below his chin, and then we drive back up. So it's initially a sink back, and then head moves back up, and I'm actively pinching my head into his tricep. This is going to help prevent him from bringing that elbow back down to the mat. Now from here, we're going to look to start locking our hands up palm to palm, and I'm going to look to start tucking my right elbow in. Now know that if he goes to start bridging, okay, you can always use this elbow to base out. So if he goes to bridge, once again, we just use that elbow to base out and make sure we don't fall over. Now from here, what we're going to look to start doing is we're going to look to start dismounting. So from here, I'm going to drive my weight forward, I'm going to bring my left heel to my butt, and I'm just going to pummel it across his hip. Now from here, I'm going to start to kind of sag my weight down, okay, so I'm going to sprawl my right hip, and I make sure my left knee stays on his hip. If I take my left knee off of his hip, it's going to allow him to start turtling and turning away from me, okay. He's going to expose his back, but he's going to get out of the arm triangle. So what we want to do is we want to keep our elbow tucked in tight. We want to keep our left knee on his hip. So now when he tries to turtle, we have a wedge in front of that hip to make it hard. Now, from here, a lot of people think that it's just a drive forward and a squeeze for the arm triangle. The way that I like to finish it is through a retraction of my left elbow. So when I have my hands locked up here, okay, I'm going to be kind of moving away, and I'm going to be retracting my elbow like so. So we have the whole position locked up. We've got our hips sprawled. We're actively pinching our head in. And now from here to finish, all I do is I start retracting my left elbow back, and we get a nice tight triangle. Now you guys have seen a few different options from this mounted position. There's still tons more, okay? So now we're going to kind of go into chaining different attacks together. The first situation we're going to look at is the S-mount armbar. So once again, we've dug underneath our opponent's elbows. We've gotten both of his elbows above his head. We slide our knee up and we start sitting around the corner like so. Now, a very common reaction you're going to get is people locking up this figure four. Now, initially, the first move we taught is just sitting back and allowing him to get this figure four. Another great option is switching sides. So from here, what I'm going to look to do is initially, my right arm is just going to grip his tricep. I'm going to extract my left arm, and from here I'm going to start reaching through and gripping his other elbow. Now I'm going to start posting my right hand on the mat, and I'm going to start to rotate my hips around the corner. So I post right hand, I start to rotate my hips around the corner, and then from here I just sit my hip down and I reinsert my cross-face leg, but on the other side. Now your opponent may be able to re-lock up, but it's not going to be a full figure four. So it's going to be a lot easier to start bringing the elbow to the wrist, sliding down, separating, and then going into your finishes. So this is one other attack from the S-mount position. Okay, you can also chain together arm triangles and standard triangles. So from here, once again, we get an elbow elevated above the head. This time, we feel like we can't dig underneath that far elbow, so instead, we just stick with our crossface. From here, we start sliding our weight back and away. We lock up this arm triangle, and then from here, we start to dismount. Now, let's say, you have you're going against Jorge, who's very difficult to strangle, and you just feel like, man, I can't get this arm triangle to work. Whenever this happens, what I can start to do is I can start to slide my knee up and around the corner, like so. From here, I'm going to posture up, I'm going to unlock my hands, and I'm going to lift his head, okay? Most of the time, your opponents are going to kind of have their elbow in tight, like so. So it's going to be fairly easy to get that leg around the corner. So from here, I'm going to posture up, I'm going to lift the head, and at the same time, I'm just going to take a big step over like so, and we're going to start transferring off into this standard triangle. Now from here, I'm going to switch my hand. So initially is my left hand grabbing his head. I'm going to switch off to my right. Left hand's going to post on the mat, and then I'm going to start shooting that knee all the way through. I lean my weight so I can lock up that full figure four. Now we can start reaching for that far hip and bringing our knees in towards our chest for a nice tight finish. So that's how you maintain the mounted position, work elbows above the head, and start going into your submission threats. I hope you guys enjoyed. This is a position that a lot of people struggle with, and I hope that this helped. If you guys want to learn more stuff like this, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, leave a like and a comment down below. Let us know what you guys want to see more of, what positions you're struggling with. You guys can also subscribe to our sub-meta. We got live Q&As on there, match breakdowns, and just full rounds in general. So make sure you guys head over there and subscribe. Also make sure you guys check out our merch store. Help support us, help support my Zyn addiction. And yeah, thank you guys. Hope you enjoyed.